We might just jump in. I was going to do another throw the balls around the room, but we might just jump into our final presentation of the session to make sure that we've got some time for questions at the end. And our final presenter of today is Alicia Kennedy. And Dr. Alicia Kennedy is a social-hearted veterinarian and founder of Cherished Pets, the world's first certified B Corporation veterinary service. She has led the development of an innovative ecosystem of pet and veterinary care with community at its heart and accessible and affordable pet and veterinary care as its outcome. Alicia is a passionate advocate of the social value of vets and the role of the human-animal bond and healthy companion animals in human health and well-being and a thriving, connected society. She has a close association with Dr. Jane Goodall and is one of the founders of the Jane Goodall Institute Australia. So welcome, Alicia Kennedy, discussing Cherished Pets, breaking down barriers through a community-centred, multidisciplinary social veterinary service model.
Thank you.
That's forward. Super. That one's back, and that's the pointer.
Thank you. Thank you. Last session, wow. Just have a little jiggle in your seats. It's been a huge day. I was just reflecting over there that I feel I'm leaving today so much more rounded, informed, inspired. It's just been such a fabulous day. And I'm going to be talking to you about breaking down barriers through the Cherished Pets model. I'm going to watch my time. Yep. I just want to start by saying that the team at Cherished Pets, the people of Cherished Pets, we live, work, play, take our dogs to the beach on the beautiful lands of the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation, and to pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. As an organisation, we are curious and respectful to learn and understand more about the human and animal bond in Indigenous culture, and so I feel very blessed to be in the same little section and to follow on from Jeremiah, so thank you. That was a beautiful session. So while we're on to thank yous, I normally have a little thank you slide at the end of my presentation, but I'm known to run out of time, so it's always the slide that gets dropped off. But it's so important. Cherished Pets has been on an 8-year journey that you're about to hear about, and it's we're proud of what we're doing, but we're still a very messy organisation in lots of ways. Can you hear me okay? Yep. And so there are organisations to thank, and there are individuals to thank, and I won't do them separately, but there are quite a few people in this room that have been a really valuable part of our journey to this point. You know who you are. But I do need to give a shout out for the Victorian State Government for their massive support of our organisation, and I'll talk about that more later. But Pets and Positive Ageing, I want to give them a shout out because they've actually supported some of my costs to be here. It's a fabulous organisation in the ACT around pets and healthy ageing. And so Di Johnston, in her beauty, has sent me a little envelope of My Pets Are Home Alone cards and flyers, and she's asked me to hand them out. So come and see me if you want one. And I've done my shout out to Pets and Positive Ageing, and also Pets Regardless Foundation, which is a private philanthropy organisation that has supported several groups in our room today, and she's phenomenal. Now, I want you to thank each other, because collectively the work that's being done by the people in this room is why we're moving towards the bigger picture. So I just want you to take 5 seconds now to just thank the person next to you for the incredible work that you do. Okay. And more thank yous. You can thank each other more later, but we've heard a lot through the themes of today about the emotional toll of our work, and just want to kudos to everyone in this room. This is an incredible group of people. I got very excited when I was reading through the Hoover app and who else was going to be here. So we were founded in 2015. I'm actually a vet. I describe myself as a social-hearted vet. And I wanted to fill a gap in our community of supporting pets of vulnerable people, particularly the elderly. That's my dad. He's now 92, and that's me in 2015 with different hair and 15 kilos lighter, I have to say. And dear old Tessie is no longer on this planet, but that was my sister's dog. So I was starting Cherished Pets. I'm like, I need an old dog and an old person. So I grabbed my dad and my sister's dog. We are deliberately a dual entity organisation, so we're a private veterinary practice. We're the world's first certified B Corp. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But it's a global movement of ethical business practice, which means we are using businesses as a force for good. And we set up a registered charity, Cherished Pets Foundation, because I knew right from the beginning that in order to deliver the service that I was dreaming of, we would need the charitable side of it for subsidy funding, volunteers, and also to allow for some research. We're also a Human-Animal Bond Research Institute certified practice. So lots has changed and happened over our time, but the one thing that hasn't changed is our purpose. The reason that I get out of bed every day is to enable the benefits of healthy, I'm emphasising the word healthy companion pets and a thriving human-animal bond to be accessible to all people. It's the human-animal bond where the magic happens. It's where the health and wellbeing benefits to people are actualised. And my passion as a vet has always been the human-animal bond. I don't like cutting things. I'm just going to put that out there now. I faint in surgery. Our vision is beautiful. I feel like I was talking to Susan at lunch. We're moving closer. The human-animal bond is actually being recognised and supported and valued for the essential, vital, amazing role that it plays in healthy and thriving individuals and communities. So we must not give up. The strongest thing in Cherished Pets is our community. We are very strong. Our community is anchored in a deep love for our pets and an appreciation, a deep appreciation of the power of the human-animal bond to save lives, to change lives. Hands up if that resonates for you, that you have that appreciation. So then you're all part of the Cherished Pets community from now on. And our shared goal is to enable accessible support for people that are experiencing vulnerability. So we're talking about our elderly folk, our wise elders, people living with a disability, those experiencing homelessness and facing insecure housing, which is pretty much half the population at the moment, people fleeing domestic violence and people suffering mental health crisis. And the other area where we focus, which is for all people, there is no time that we are more vulnerable than when facing the loss of a pet. So we hold hands, hearts and paws through all life stages. What we know for sure is the social value of companion animals is significant. The human-animal bond is a key driver of human health and wellbeing, and we'll be hearing more about this tomorrow. I've looked at the sessions that are coming up, particularly flagging Sonia's session on the social determinants of animal welfare. We're seeing rising barriers to accessing pet and vet care. Some of this has been talked about today. Our vet industry is in crisis, and the impact of that is it's threatening future health of pets and access to a thriving human-animal bond. Back to the human-animal bond as a key driver of human health and wellbeing. What I mean by that, and I think many of us in this room appreciate it, people will put their pets before themselves. We see it over and over again. Jen was talking about it, like they don't feed themselves so that they can save money for their pet's vet bill. People will stay in the domestic violence space. They'll stay in an unsafe household rather than be separated from their pet. People living in cars rather than being separated from their pets. People refusing to go into care that they need, hospital, mental health crisis, rather than be separated from their pet. We want to solve some of these problems. We have a rise in social and financial issues. It's pretty scary out there, and I know many of you in this room are feeling the fact that there's 2 million more pets in Australia out of the pandemic. And we know that around 30% of pet owners are expressing that they're facing challenges accessing vet care. So what we see every day, and I'm sure many of you do too, that when people struggle, animals suffer. So to address the animal welfare, we need to look after the people. So that's what we're trying to do at Cherished Pets, and we don't always do it very well, but we're doing pretty good for the individuals, the pets and the people that we're able to serve. And so we talk about breaking down the barriers around financial, psychological and physical. I think financial is an obvious one, so I won't dwell on that. The physical barriers, example of that is our elderly folk who actually need assistance walking their dog to keep their dog healthy or transport to the vet. A lot of our elderly clients can afford to pay. They just actually need somebody to come and walk their dog. And the psychological barriers is around this growing intensity of the human-animal bond with mental health challenge in people and increasing attachment to their pets, which can sometimes interfere with good decisions for the pet's well-being. And I think the most recurrent example of that in the veterinary space is the client who has a very high level of attachment to their pet, and their pet is facing end of life and they're struggling to give permission to let go, which can really be detrimental to the animal's welfare and also for the veterinary team that are trying to support them. So Cherished Pets has designed an integrated multidisciplinary, I can never get my tongue around, you know the word I'm trying to say, multidisciplinary service, and integral to our service is the veterinary social worker role. So the social worker role, veterinary social worker is a social worker who's undergone additional training in the human-animal bond and bridges the gap between animal health and wellbeing and human health and wellbeing. So our veterinary, so that's the beautiful Elise there with chubby Bella. They do wraparound case management, supporting our vulnerable clients through our social service, supporting our veterinary teams. You know, when I've had a tricky case, I will go and have a debrief with one of the vet social workers. They support in the grief and bereavement area of our work, and advocacy and education. And just picking up from Alison's talk before, you know, hanging out with social workers has really changed my view of the world on the social workers. They meet people where they're at, and it's that lack of judgment and looking at empowering people. A lot of the stuff that's been touched on today can actually be supported in this space with the social worker role. So our services include a beautiful home pet care assistance program, which was our original service. We have a community vet nurse who does the rounds and checks in and does community vet nursing, that it is what it says it is. We have a really beautiful volunteer program, so we match volunteers with elderly people to walk their dogs, take them to the vet, take them to the groomer, transfers. Through our home pet care assistance program, they're eligible to access some funding assistance for keeping their pet healthy and well. That might be wellness, it might be a dental, it might be weight loss program. There's a lot. And unexpected illness. And then all of the participants in that program get a pet care plan, whether it's a wellness plan, a health management plan. So every pet that comes through this gets a veterinary health and behaviour assessment. Sometimes it's a behaviour problem, but they all get an emergency care plan. So if they fall over and have to go to hospital, straight away we can implement their plan. And in the best case scenario, it's their volunteer that actually just takes their pet home. I'm trying to stick to time. I can't remember what time I have to finish. What time did I start? Yeah. Oh, we're doing well. Oh, hang on. We'll go back. There's one missing. Oh, my slide's missing. There's definitely, we looked at it before. There's one in there, it's definitely missing. That's weird. Yeah, this one, number 11. He's trying to help me. Oh, I'll just talk about it. It's our crisis care service. It's got another that's really weird. The slide just vanished. I could see it on here. We have our home pet care assistance program. We also have a crisis care service, which was what through Animal Welfare Victoria, we got some state government funding to support us to develop the vet social work program and our crisis care service. So in that service, we are supporting pets of people in crisis. I know there's other organisations in this room that do it very well, better than us. We're still learning, but it's when people in crisis, so urgent hospitalisation, fleeing domestic violence, mental health crisis, and homelessness. And again, every pet gets a health and behaviour assessment, and what we find in the crisis care service is about 50% of them the pets haven't seen a vet for more than 2 years, and a lot of them come to us with existing problems. So the crisis care service, even though the human is in crisis at the time they present, becomes a gateway, and the funding is a gateway to give them some health and veterinary attention. And our third primary service is our end-of-life service. It's what we're really known for in our community: compassionate euthanasia, palliative care. This is for all across the community, but through our social mission, we believe that every pet deserves a good death and every human deserves choice in how they say goodbye. So we go over and above to make sure that it doesn't matter what your circumstances, your pet can have the farewell that you want him to have. So our model is very complex. You can come to me later. I need half an hour. Well, I need a long time to talk about it. But essentially, I talk about the circular flow of funding and care and love. It's all about love. But those with the resources are supporting those who require assistance through vulnerable times. And vulnerable times can happen to any of us tomorrow. So this is for everyone. Those with the resources, we're talking about obviously donations and financials. So the best donors into our charity are actually the private clients of our practice. And there's no time when people get more generous than in memory of a cherished pet who's passed, but also our volunteers and local businesses. And so it's like this, we're all in this together. It's an exchange, and one day it might be my turn to receive. Community engagement is huge. We have a pet hub, which is the home of our social service and our charity, and we run lovely little events. So on the right, on that side, is a memorial afternoon tea with Glenda's famous scones. Glenda is our community vet nurse. She's a great cook, so her scones are famous. That's why I've put on 15 kilos over the last however long. But this was to remember Sarah and Mavis. Sarah was the dog, Mavis was her human. They both died in a 12-month period. And the people that you see in that photo are Team Sarah. So they all took part in the care of Sarah, whether it was the vet nurse or the vet or the neighbour or the volunteers through Cherished Pets. So very special. And the other photo is our snuffle mat making days, where people can come, have a cup of tea, have some of Glenda's scones, make snuffle mats, and then we sell them to raise money for the foundation, and they sell like hotcakes. People love them. So I touched on veterinary social work and don't have a lot of time to go into depth on that, but veterinary social work, the University of Tennessee has a veterinary social work program in Australia. It's not something that you can go and do a course on. Our pathway to creating veterinary social workers is through a really robust social work placement program in partnership with Deakin Uni. So we've had 13, about to go up to 15 social work students come and do placement with us since 2020, and we've, over that time, actually offered employment to up to 5 of them, some of them casual. And Elise, who you saw in that earlier photo, has been with us from day one. She came and did her student placement, and then I'm like, we can't lose her. So then we created an internship, and then we put her onto staff. Oh, and it's just appeared. I don't know where that came from. This is so rare. So, and the rest of it's gone. Anyway, I'm having some tech issues, but it is at the end of the day, and the computers have feelings and they get tired. So we're just gonna love the computer. But anyway, the state government logo was there because I've got to get that in. So the biggest barrier of all, I was doing this presentation, I'm like, far out, I do swear. it's actually our system. Who would agree? So I want to see more integrated care, and I want to break down these barriers between animal health and human health organisations. And so many of you today have touched on this, so I feel like I was really lucky to get the last spot so that the computer could play up and then I could kind of wrap that all up. But I just want you for a minute to imagine a future. I'm a dreamer, I'm a visionary. I've been profiled as a scattered visionary, which explains a lot of why my life, you see how many tabs I have opened on my computer and you'll get it. But my dream is a social service that revolves around the human-animal bond. And it is collaborative and multidisciplinary and community-centred in its delivery. It's what we are doing in our corner of the world on a micro scale. But 8 years into this journey, I know this is possible and we can build on this dream. The veterinary social worker for me is integral to this model because they are the bridge between human health and animal health. And the funding scheme is also community collaborative. I talk about the bucket of money. Who loves a bucket of money, right? I love, our model is around flexible pet care packages. You have an eligibility process, intake process, and if you're eligible, you qualify for a flexible pet care funding package that can be used to whatever your needs are. It might be crisis care, it might be vet bills, it might be the home assistance program, it might be support through end of life. Everyone needs to be putting into this bucket. So government, industry, vets, pet owners, philanthropy, and so you can create like a funding scheme around the social service that revolves around the human-animal bond. And because one of the other things that I'll quickly mention, beautiful, is that it becomes a gate. We have people come to us, I think you'll all get this, come to us because of their pets, but we then, the social workers in working with them, are then able to support them to other services such as aged care and disability support, and particularly in the housing space. Now, I did this slide for when we were presenting to the local MPs for an update on the project, so I just had to put a bit of a warning, but there's a bit of a... I'm just going to wrap up with a little story which is going to tie me back to Ginger and Mike's story of Ginger. So 5 o'clock on a Monday, Elise, our social worker, sent me a text to say Lily's coming in the morning. Now, I just want you to reflect for a minute, and we don't have time to share, how you might respond to that photo if you saw it on social media. And somebody today has been talking about social media. What we might say about the owner of that dog. So I just want you to reflect on what your judgment might be of the owner of that dog or the human of that dog. I can tell you now that dog was deeply loved, deeply important for her human. He, however, the barriers were financial, disability and mental health. He had been quoted, so she had like a big mammary tumour, hadn't been dissected. Her name is Lily. She's as feisty as all whatever. So trying to get a catheter into her, good luck. But he'd been quoted $2,000 for that surgery. He'd been saving $40 out of his pension, so he'd made it to $400. Now, he had an urgent health event, a crisis, so he accessed our crisis care service because of his health crisis, which was a bit of fortuitousness for Lily and him, because the hospital referred her to us because he'd left her at home. He was in hospital. So through our crisis care funding package, we were able to take her into care. She had a lovely bath. She tried to bite everyone. And then we were able to, because we're a vet clinic, we were able to do the surgery. The government funding paid the gap between the $400 and the $1,000. And here she is now. So she actually went to live with Glenda, who makes the great scones. So clearly I have my camera out when Glenda's around. But anyway, we do have other people. And normally with our crisis care, they either go to a volunteer or some of them have to go to boarding. But when they're special needs, we try and place them quite close to home. So Glenda's now obviously a softie because Sparky and Lily are living happily ever after. But the way that story Normally after crisis care, they go back to their humans. And because of our 2 services, they can tip into home care assistance so that we can ensure continuity of support. It's really important, not sending them back to where they came from. Unfortunately for Lily's human, he was diagnosed with a terminal condition and he died about 6 weeks after she came into care. But he got to see her twice before he died with Glenda, clean and pretty, still kind of trying to bite sometimes. She bites me. We have a really special relationship. So he died knowing that Lily had been looked after. And I have reflected today with Mike's really emotional story this morning that if there was a service like ours, this is how it can be different. And no thank you slide, but keep in touch. Thank you.
So I'd like to invite all of our speakers from this last session up to our panel here for any questions, if you're happy to do that. Thank you. All right, while people are coming up, Alicia, I think you gave us our second merch phrase for today, which was, "It's all about love." I think that really encompasses everything that we've spoken about today. So I think that's another great phrase. Also loved your mention of those, the little cards that people can have, the "My Pets Are Home Alone." I think that's could have a pretty significant impact for a lot of people. Okay, some questions. The first one is for Jeremiah. And Elizabeth is asking, when approaching a property in a more suburban area, who would be the appropriate head of the family to speak to in regard to the animals living amongst them?
Okay, when anybody comes to the community, it's not just one pet. It's got to be a whole community approach. It's got to be a really big problem right across the community before anything can be done. 3, 4 very important things can be done for them. Really caring, nowhere, family members, but still they won't come unless a supporting nowhere organization would do that. But if you are there, cultural protocol, it normally would be notifying the community you're coming once you got permission and all. And the family that you are targeting will go and see the Jungaya and the mob that use that animal as a totem. So therefore you got the full respect. Because once you get the support from them too, it's not that community, it's a whole region will support your engagement. So, but a lot of things are last minute. Even though you think you've done 2-3 weeks of pre-notification, by the time it gets to the community, it's like 2-3 days, and they're not ready. I don't know where it breaks down. I can't tell you. I'm at the receiving end. That's normally late. But it will. If it's only a short time, it would be the actual person that what we're all calling pet owner. And a lot of the time, they are children. Yeah, because we can't look after our children all the time, so we try and focus the dogs to be around the kids for their protection, not from humans like you have here, from everything else that we have in the bush. Does that answer the question?
Thanks, Jeremiah. Yeah. Now a question for Alicia. Is there any training you would recommend for vets dealing or communicating with clients facing significant social or mental health issues, or communication training or resources to provide people around bereavement and counselling for grief?
Is this on? Yes. Very timely question. We've actually got Mike here who has people and pets with bereavement resources. So to answer that question, wave your hand, Mike. Catch up with Mike. He's here for the whole week. The first question is training for vets around. So I describe myself as a social-hearted vet, meaning that I'm social-hearted, meaning that I care as much about the people as I do the pets, which is an education in process within the vet industry. There's a lot of social-hearted vets out there. It's because we centre our care and our service around the human-animal bond. So it's very timely question because we're seeking to develop more resources to do social-hearted training for vets, to equip them. It's very much around the social worker's lens view of the world and how we can actually integrate some of the ways of doing things that are first nature for a social worker from the training and skills that they have, and actually share them across the profession. Does that make sense?
Yes. So are those resources available now?
No. So we're building them.
Building them.
Yeah,
Excellent. So watch this space.
Well, so definitely. So if whoever asked that question, I'll find it on the Hoover. I love Hoover. I will track you down.
Consider yourself warned. A question now for Alison. How can we be culturally responsive whilst also working within tight budgets that many shelter and rescue organisations have?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think that you can't afford not to. And especially, I want to acknowledge the reality of increasing costs, and especially veterinary costs for organizations. So that is real, but these animals are going to come to you in other ways. So keeping them in their homes in the long run is going to actually be more cost effective. And that's a shift. I think you can also collect data around that so that it's not just a feeling. But yes, I think it's something that we can't afford not to do.
Thank you. A question for Brooke now from Karina, which is, do you feel that the work that AMRIC does aligns with the culture and beliefs of the communities with which you collaborate?
Yes. I think that we, as I sort of talked about, each community is different, and definitely each of our programs is different. So we do a lot of, as I said, we don't go in unless we're invited, and we don't we make sure that we're talking with everyone on the ground, and that we've got the right people at the table, that the consultation's been had. Even when we're in community on the ground, we're always with local people. Of course, there's always challenges. So, recently there was a significant Sorry Business event that happened on the way out to while our team was on the way out to the community, and that really impacted sort of what we could do in the community out there. And, we just take guidance once we're on the ground from community members, and it's always about having those conversations. So we don't push anything on anyone. It's about owners being informed, asking questions, having two-way sharing of knowledge. And if someone says they don't want their pet desexed, then we don't. If they have 30 cats and they want them all desexed, we will. If they don't want those cats, we'll remove them. It's really about actually listening to the people and working with them to come up with what solutions are required. So, yeah.
Thanks, Brooke. And again, everything comes down to those two key words that we've heard so many times today: communication and collaboration. Really. And a final question. This one is again for Jeremiah from Julia. And I think you touched on this in your presentation when you were showing us the picture, and there was the cat in the picture as well as the dogs. And that was, how do you feel about introduced animal species?
Too far long gone. All the Hoobs mob are here, stamped on our country. That's it. It's all gone. So introduced buying, Mother Earth is for everyone. And a lot of people are worried about native species being wiped out by introduced. No? But for Yolngu itself, they're like the species that are introduced, if they're similar, for example, cane toad, no good, right? But still accepted because, they said that it morphed between this. First it started off as a joke, but now it's serious. The greenie, frog, with lizard skin. So it linked it to two different tribes that never really participated together now do. So it's just what nature is telling you. Anything that's changing or being introduced, we will accept. Just like what I said about the cat. Instant devastation, change. A lot of songlines, a lot of tribes, totems wiped out. And it happened. So if we understood the power of that, cat, then we would have been prepared. Yeah, but introducing, it's just the course of nature of today's world. So there's nothing except the inevitable that we may not go back to our maker. So if my totem is all gone, I'm going to have an empty funeral. There is no afterlife for me. Because I don't have that spiritual guide to take me back. I'm a Aborigine, Greek, and the coins that we need to go across with that boat, same thing, but the totem is our boat. So these animals are very important. When our elders pass on, they need them to come back. And later, for us, when we're gone, to go back. So it's before, after, or during. It's everything about us. Yeah. So buying everything means except the good and the bad. So no problem.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And I think that is the perfect way to wrap up today's proceedings. Please join me in thanking all of our presenters from this afternoon's session.